Right, it is a t-shirt day today, but in a couple of days time it's going to be quite chilly. I'm going to get some cold nights. So with that in mind, any tenders or tropicals that you wish to keep growing over winter, now's a good time to take stock and decide what you want to keep, what you're willing to let die, and what you're willing to experiment to see if it sort of pulls through the winter. On that note, I do experiment a lot. I've had a Alocasia macrorrhiza, one of the giant alocasias, and I've kept that in over winter, and it's obviously died back but regrown again the next year. So some things do surprise you, but in general, if you want the best growth out of something, you don't want to let it totally die off and go dormant. You want to keep them growing. So on that note, there's a couple of things I'm going to go around the garden with. So let's have a look. I've got some pots and I've got a sheet of stickers, and you could just go around with a piece of paper obviously and write out labels after, but I've got some stickers here, so we'll use them. So what I'm going to do is have a walk around. I'm going to have a look at what plants I want to keep growing over winter. So what I'd say is, I mean, I've got a Thai giant here. This is the Laos giant version, so it's like the biggest sort of leaf you can grow really when it comes to colocasia or alocasia, but not going to be hardy whatsoever. So that's going to be a dig up and keep ticking over winter, not in full growth, just keep ticking. So with the decrease in daylight hours, we are getting continually smaller and smaller leaves, which is, you know, most plants will do this. I've got a Esculenta here which have pumped out some good sized leaves, really quite big leaves for how poor summer's been, but we can see that the newer leaves are nearly half the size. So they're just with the, like I say, decrease of the daylight hours and the sort of cooler nights, they tend to start slowing down. Plants know when it's time to come into full growth, or, you know, start winding down for the year. So you'll see it with certain plants, they will slow right down and produce smaller leaves, just part of the seasonal change. So yeah, with that being said, like with the Thai giant here, I'm gonna dig this up into quite a small pot, probably something about this size, because I want to save space indoors. I don't want loads of big pots, and like I say, I don't want it in full growth. So the idea is I'm going to dig this up with only a small amount of root. I will cut any leaves off on it, just leaving the sort of one emerging leaf here, which is quite small anyway, because it's getting quite shaded this time of year. And yeah, so we'll have a minimal root ball. I will put it in fresh compost, so that's going to sulk for a good month or so anyway. And in indoor conditions, they're not going to grow particularly fast like they do outside. So they should just, I expect, especially with the Thai giants here, they'll produce one sort of small, almost deformed leaf, and then when the next one starts pushing up, that one will die. So literally I'll just have just one leaf all the time, which is good for indoors, because we don't want huge leaves taking up a lot of space. And a lot of these plants can be pest magnets as well, whether it be spider mites or mealybugs or whatever. So yeah, that's the plan. So like I say, I'm going around, I'm writing out the stickers. So we've got some Colocasia Redemption, White Lava, Coal Miner, Mojito, sapphire, black gecko, marigold, Thai giant, Thai Laos, and I've got a banana one written out there as well, banana canna. So I'm going to be digging one of them up and moving that. So what I don't want to do is forget what's in the pot. So what I'm going to do is rip out the stickers. I've got a pot. I'll leave a pot beside each plant I want to dig up. So I'll go through the whole garden. Any plants I want to keep growing over winter and dig up. I'm going to put a pot next to it, and so I'll know exactly where to go to dig up and pot up. So I haven't actually got any compost at the minute. I do like to, when I dig things up, I'll wash the garden soil off the roots. So I don't really want to bring sort of lots of pests and possibly slugs or worms indoors, just for the fact is, especially with worms, obviously very good for your soil, but they do tend to, you know, you water a pot and they'll come to the surface and they can escape, and you don't want worms around your house everywhere. So I tend to dig them up, cut the roots right back, cut the leaves off, and put them in fresh compost in a very small pot. So yeah, I think the first port of call is to go round, make your list, put a pot next to each plant, and then you can come back and dig up each plant and pot them up. So I mean, that really is as simple as that. And some plants I'm not going to bother digging up. I mean, I've got some dwarf Cavendish here, which has not been a great summer for, you know, true tropicals as such. So I won't be digging them up. I'll let them die. They're cheap and easy enough to buy next year. You can normally get a decent sized plant for around sort of £5 or £6, and for how much hassle it's going to be for me to overwinter that, it's not worth it. But like I say, some plants you might spend a bit more money on, and it's worth overwintering. Right, so again, take stock of what you've got, have a good walk around, take your time. Any plants you're prepared to gamble with. A lot of colocaceae will surprise you and come back. I quite often get burgundy stem survive the winter, Fonticii, colocaceae always survives. I mean, Colocaceae esculenta, the standard, always survives the winter for me. So stuff like that, I mean, you can have a little gamble, or, you know, a bit of extra mulch, whatever. But in general, if you've got a guarantee survival of something. And I'll go back to another colocaceae. So I've got a white lava here, which really hasn't done too much over the last month or so, because again, daylight hours are decreasing and they're sort of winding down, so that's almost sort of died back. But I'm not so worried about the main plant, but it's got a nice little pup on that, so I will be digging that up and potting it. And I think sometimes it's better to take a pup than it is to take the original plant, just due to, you know, pups will take up less space and tend to have a good vigour at the start of next spring. Right, so that is pretty much it. Just go around, have a look what you got, what you want to keep, and do a list or do some stickers so you can just stick them straight on your pots. And like I say, why I've done the stickers is because I've been caught out so many times in the past with colocaceae and sort of cannas and stuff that all look very similar when they first start. You know, if they do die right back, or when they're very small at least, they all look very similar. You know, a lot of them are very different mature leaves to the sort of juvenile leaves, and they can look all very samey at a young stage. So it is good to pot up and just take away the guesswork and be sure of what you've got in the pot. Right, so that is really, for me, one of the first things, you know, winter protection wise. It's good to leave things in as late as you can. I won't let them get to a point where you get a frost, because you are going to potentially send that plant into dormancy. So we do want to keep them just ticking over rather than going dormant. because a lot of plants will take a long time to come out of dormancy once that stage has happened. Right, we'll leave it there. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more winter prep videos.